Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Wehrs, who leads the team at Calliope Games. Calliope Games is the publisher of the incredibly popular Tsuro, the Game of the Path, along with Roll For It. Their newest title, Tsuro Luxury Limited Edition, is currently on Kickstarter and a sight to behold. Ray, welcome to the binge. How you doing?
Thank you, James. I really appreciate it and appreciate being here.
I think I put like an accent on the end of the E there. Calliope. It's Calliope, right? Calliope. Calliope Games? Calliope. We just went through this like 5 minutes ago. Give me the proper pronunciation. How do you pronounce this title?
It's Calliope.
Calliope. There we go. Calliope.
Right? Unless you're French,
yeah,
right?
This crazy Canadian influence, Calliope. And I actually own this game, right? I own Tsuro, and I have this. I play it all the time. Oh.
Well, Tsoro's Japanese, so you know.
So Ray, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's some history not just behind this game, but even your company, right? Can you walk us through kind of how Calliope formed and kind of the history of that and kind of how it all started?
Oh, sure. So Calliope is one of actually two brands. So the name of the company is actually Compound Fun.
Okay.
Right. And so Compound Fun, the two brands that we had, one was Wehrs Expeditions, and then the other one was Calliope. And so Wehrs Expeditions was originally set up to do miniature style games, right? And we had a very unique system to do that. The name of the game that we published was Arcane Legions. And the game actually did really well. We sold about 30,000 copies of the game, right? Which was awesome. But, you know, my history, we came from WizKids, right? And we were using our experiences at WizKids to come up with the projections for what Arcane Legions could do. And so we had projected that we were going to sell 90,000 copies, right? Okay. So when you project that you're going to do 90,000, even though everybody thought that 30,000 was great, the numbers just didn't work, right? So, but Wehrs Expeditions was really about making more of the core hobby style games, right? And they were going to be expandable or collectible with deep stories behind them, right? Whereas the Calliope side of it was family style, all family-based games.
Yeah.
We wanted to do gateway and filler games, right? Mm-hmm. The focus was to actually grow the industry, right? And so the nice thing about this style of game is that when you have a Tsuro or a Roll For It, it can actually give your cash flow a steady
injection, like an evergreen almost?
Yeah, well, I would say Tsuro is an evergreen. Yeah. I think Roll For It's on its way. Mm-hmm. You know, I wouldn't consider it an evergreen yet, but I think we're getting really close. I think 2019, it will fit my definition of
an evergreen.
Well, yeah, of an evergreen. But we're already past 2019, right? So I guess it is.
Yeah.
I'm getting old in my.
Well, it's the COVID, right? The past 2 years, where'd they go? I don't know.
It's like, what the heck? But yeah, so you know, Roll For It's over 10 years old now, so I would say that that's an evergreen game, right? But what I was saying about Calliope, it was really the side of Compound Fun that would give us the ability to have a stable cash flow. Mm-hmm. Whereas the collectible side of it and the expandable side of it, you got your ups and downs, right? And it's all based on each release, and they're very expensive to do, right? So with Arcane Legions, when it didn't meet our expectations, right, we had some tough decisions to make. Yeah. You know, do we move forward at all? And I really wanted to do it because when we were at WizKids, one of the other things that I realized is that we were doing more than just making games. We were affecting people's lives for the better, And I really wanted to continue that. And I thought that Calliope, who had that, was that perfect opportunity. And because we had access to Tsuro, right, it was what I really wanted to set the foundation of the company on, right? So we actually published 2 games before Tsuro. One was UG and the other one was Gotham. But when we did those games, we used Tsuro and its elegance, right, as a template, if you will, for the games that we wanted to publish. And so that's where, Tsuro really is the foundation and the cornerstone of Calliope. So.
Yeah. Now, you had said that we were talking briefly just off air there about how Tsuro, I guess when WizKids kind of got sold and Tsuro went with WizKids, at some point Calliope was able to get Tsuro back. And how did that kind of flow and work?
Oh, sure. So, Tsuro at WizKids was always a secondary thought. It was never their primary means of business, right? I mean, they were selling boosters at the time. We were selling miniatures and booster packs, right? And it was all about HeroClix, McWare, Mage Knight, and each one of those releases were 350 to 500,000. Some of them were $1 million plus, right? And the amount of work that goes into marketing a game, whether it's one of those expansion packs or whether it was Tsuro, right? The return on Tsuro was nowhere near what it would be for one of these expansions. So the bean counters at WizKids were basically saying, what are you guys doing? Right? Why do you even want to do this? Right? But they weren't gamers, right? They didn't have the passion for the game itself. And so as time went, right, we were able to get it published, but it kind of took a secondary position at WizKids. And once WizKids was sold, then it fell even further back. And then when it was sold again, then it just came off the table, right? And when it came off the table, I knew it was going to go back to Tom. So I called up Tom and I said, Tom, let's take another shot at this. Only this time, this is going to be the foundation of the company. This is going to be our cornerstone, right? And he said, well, okay, if you put it that way, I'm in. I said, okay, let's do it. So super guy, right? And he trusts me, and I'm very grateful for that trust. And we've definitely done everything that we can to put this in the forefront, and I think he notices, and he knows that, So. And we're growing the line, right? So Tsuro was one singular title, and now it's 3, right? And plus we have the luxury limited edition coming out. So
the is it like is it High Seas? I can't remember the name of the one with the
Tsuro of the Seas.
So, and then the other one's Rise of the Phoenix, I think, or something like that.
No, Phoenix Rising.
Phoenix Rising.
You're getting it. Yeah.
So those 2, was it Calliope that launched those, or were those were they acquired from WizKids?
So, Tsuro of the Seas was originally done with my brother-in-law Jordan Weisman, who actually was the guy that started WizKids, right? But he's also my partner in Calliope, along with his lovely wife. And my sister Dawne, right? But I was the sales guy, right? And I had a customer that was, again, actually happened to be in France, that had the license for Star Wars. And I called him up and I said, well, we're getting ready to do another printing of Tsuro. How much would you like? And he's going, I don't want any. He says, but would you be willing to put a Star Wars license on the game? Absolutely. Yes. For sure.
A rhetorical question,
yeah. And so when I told Jordan about it, and he's a huge Star Wars fan, right? He's like, oh, this is great. Let's make Tsuro more like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bring it back into that theme. And so Asteroid Escape, you were dodging the asteroids, which in Tsuro of the Seas is the Daikachi.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the exact same game. Right. But I don't want to get into the details of the story.
Yeah.
But the license was actually pulled from not only the company that we were working with, but all the companies around the world that had a Star Wars license for building board games. Okay. And so that product was actually never released, but it was a great game.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're like, okay, we gotta put this thing out there. Right. And so at Gen Con, we have a very loyal volunteer base. And we started talking about it, and we said, okay, what would be a good thing for this, right? And that's where Tsuro of the Seas came from, right? So it was really us having a brainstorming sessions with some of our diehard fans, right? And so that was Tsuro of the Seas, and then Phoenix Rising. That game is a cross between two different games. One is what Tsuro Crossroads, which was not published, right? But that game uses the Tsuro tiles, and the paths come in and out of the corners. There's one path that comes out in and out of each corner, and then one path that comes out of each side. Okay, where Tsuro has two paths coming out of each of the four sides, but there's no corner access.
Right.
Okay. Tom really wanted to publish Tsuro Crossroads, right? And I didn't want to. I didn't want to put that particular product in the marketplace as it was, right? Because it really changed some of the way the existing game would play, okay? But there were some real benefits to it. It allows you to get across the board much faster, right? By going through the diagonals. And, but it also can become more confusing, right? And so I wanted to be able to solve that. And I had actually come up with a game board that allowed us to use a tile game, a tile mechanic, with two sides on it, right? And I patented that board. And I did it for another game. It just happened to fit perfectly with Tsuro Phoenix Rising. And so what we did is we took Tom's original design for Crossroads, tweaked the paths so that they would intersect with the tiles from Tsuro. Right? So now you have both games intertwined with
come together, yeah.
Yeah, and then we changed, with Chris and Chris Leader, right, and Zach Weisman, my nephew, and then Ken Franklin. All of us worked diligently on actually trying to figure out the best way to score the game, right? What was the objective going to be? We had this really great mechanic,
yeah,
right? But how are we going to use it, And it went through a good year and a half of back and forth before we got it, But it really came together well. So now Tsoro's 3 different games, right?
Yeah.
So everything goes back to Tom's original idea, right?
Yeah.
Of the Tsuro tile, but they all have different styles of gameplay, different levels of complexity, and different objectives, right? So, so we actually have a line, which is kind of cool.
Being the foundation of the new company, I imagine it's got to be important, I guess, to really ensure that what you're putting out is of the highest quality, or at the very least shows the love of the game from you as a producer. I know we're talking about this just off air, with my personal copy, one of the things that had surprised me when I got this game was something as simple as the rice paper, right? We open
Sure.
up, you got this beautiful rice paper, and it's like a showpiece. And then, you know, I don't know if we call them pawns, but the little stones.
Yeah.
You know, they sit upright so perfectly. They almost feel ergonomical when you pick them up. It's very, very smooth, the plastic. Like you can tell there's a lot of care that you guys put into that game. Was that always there, or is that something that that you guys had kind of brought in when you did this, reestablished and made this kind of your base platform?
So the idea actually came up when we were at WizKids, right? So at the time, we were looking to put the game into the coffee shops, right? Because there was that one little trivia game that did really well in Starbucks. I don't know if you remember that, right? Okay. Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
that little game that started out there. And we wanted to be able to live in that space, right? And so, again, now this was outside of my input at all, right? So this was all the WizKids team that was being driven by Dawne and Jordan, right? And they're the ones that said, okay, this is how we can actually make a running start within this different marketplace, right? And so it was really designed, the whole Tsuro theme was designed to be sold in a coffee shop atmosphere or a Barnes and Noble, right?
Okay.
And so that was our thought process with it, right? But Jordan is a storyteller. When you tear everything apart, right? Yeah. It comes down to the story.
Sure.
Right? And Tsoro's no different, right? And so, you know, everything from the way the game looked to the rice paper to the stones, it was all about telling the story, the Zen story of Tsuro, right? And the story of enlightenment. And so we did everything that we possibly could to bring you into the story for this very simple abstract game, right? And that's where all the details came from. But with every title, with every Calliope title, you'll see that same thing. And that's something that I actually learned from Jordan. It's all about the story. You get people engaged in the story first, and you tell them, you know, what they're doing, right? Get them engaged in that. Yeah. And then they have a much more fun playing the game, right?
It's interesting you mention that, because even in our last podcast, we were talking with Roxley Games, and that was the comment on Santorini, right? When they launched Santorini, abstract game, but how can we wrap this in a theme where then it pushes beyond, it's no longer about the abstract, it's actually about kind of the theme and the story, and it's kind of got the abstract mechanic, but it's a thematic game. So it's cool. I mean, and we're going to get into the luxury limited edition here in a second, because this is seriously a sight to behold when you look at the images on this page. But I just want to say that from a personal standpoint, I absolutely love the game of Tsuro. It is probably one of the first games I purchased when I got into the hobby industry. So once we got past, you know, Catan and all these kind of initial games, it was kind of one of the first of the new genre I had purchased. And I got it specifically because it was so easy to teach people. You could play up to 6 players. So if I go to a game night and we're trying to get a bunch
eight,
is it 8 players? Oh yeah, 2, 4, 6,
you can play
8. You're right, 8 players.
So I wouldn't lie to you.
It's true. But just the sheer number of players you can have in the game, yet it doesn't go longer than 20 minutes, right? So. You know, we often bring this out at game night because we can get new people who are just joining into the board game industry, into the hobby. We can get a number of people, around the table playing in the same game, and it doesn't carry on like a lot of these other games where you have larger player numbers where they can go on for hours. Right. This is one that's over quickly, and then, okay, it's on. Let's do it again, or let's go on to another game. So
it's absolutely, let's do it again.
Yeah. Right? So I want to thank you guys for that, because again, one of my favorite games, and I was serious when I said that when I first reached out to you, because I absolutely love it. So congrats on that. I do want to go through this Kickstarter page. I mean, gosh, you guys have hit 400,000 in Canadian dollars. That's the only way I can see it. So congrats on that. You still got 24 hours to go. Like when you say, like when people talk about deluxe or premium, you know, you rarely hear people use the word luxury, but that is really how I would describe this, right? Like, God, can you walk us through like what you guys have done with this game in terms of this luxury edition? Like it is crazy to me that this much kind of luxuriousness, I guess, could go into a board game, but you've managed to do it.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, and it's taken a long time to do it too,
Yeah.
right? So originally this was what was going to be the 10-year anniversary edition of Tsuro, right? And so we are now 8 years past that, right? And or even more than that. But it's been, you know, the game's been in development for at least 8 years, right? So we've gone through 3 different factories. I've had factories tell me that they could do this thing, right?
Yeah.
And they would get to a specific point, and then all of a sudden it was like, nope, we can't do that. And if they don't tell you that they can't do it.
No, they always tell you they can.
Yeah, they tell you they can.
Yeah.
And then when they get to a point that they can't, they stop talking to
you.
Yeah. They just go black, right? And it's like, holy smokes. And so that happened to me 3 times. So the first 2 times that it happened, the first time it was completely unexpected because I thought they did the hardest part first, which was getting the box carved, right? I thought that was going to be the hardest thing to overcome. The first company that I worked with was able to do that, right? But then they weren't able to finish the inside of the box up, right? I was like, well, that's not any good.
Yeah, with the silk. So is it like a silk bag or is that like a
liner? So there's a silk bag that's in there, right? That's actually embroidered. And that's for holding the tiles because the tiles are 3-dimensional.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right? So you can't actually shuffle them. So you're going to pull them out of a drawbag.
Ah, okay.
But it also holds a certificate of authenticity, right? So when the game ships, the certificate is there. And then the other thing about the back of the certificate, if you look at it, especially the first time you play, right? You pull all the pawns out because you want to see them. There's 8 different pawns plus the totem, right? Which is the dragon and the phoenix together, right? But all the pawns are unique, right? So there's 4 dragons, there's 4 phoenixes, and they each have different colors to them. So there's 4 colors in each. But when you go to pull them all out and you have them all sitting on the table and you go to put it back, it's like, oh my gosh, where did they go? Right?
Yeah.
And because it's almost like a pillow pad that the pawns lay in.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And now it's formed for each pawn, but when you pull them out, you can't see, you know, the outline of that pawn in the space that it goes.
Gotcha.
So the back of the certificate of authenticity has the layout.
Okay.
So, you know, remember, you know, if you've backed the game and you're getting the game, please remember that the back of the certificate is your instructions on how to put
your repack instructions. Those are your IKEA instructions on the back, right?
on how to get it back together.
And they're signed and numbered. Is that also on that certificate or is it on the box?
That's correct. And so it's the signatures are not only myself, but it's going to be Tom McMurtry. And then the artwork was done by Andy Hepworth. And he just did an absolutely astounding job.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the first project that we worked on together. And after he did it for me, I asked him to be my art director because I liked what he did so much. And I'm lucky and blessed that he said yes, right? So so Andy's actually part of our full team now. So, but so all 3 of us will actually sign that certificate of authenticity.
That's cool. And then so the tiles are they is it plastic? I guess the material, right? Is it or?
It's a resin.
It's a resin. Okay.
But it's cast by hand.
Yep.
Right. It's a printing process that overlays a tempo print.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a 2-step process that actually makes it look like stone. Yeah. And the resin itself actually has a brown cast to it. Right. So when you're looking at the side of the tiles, it looks like it's a clay tile.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's what I was gonna say. That's why I had to ask, because I'm like, these kind of look like clay, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, but probably lighter, I guess, with the resin material, right?
Well, and that's just, so two things, right? Um, the materials that we picked all the way around, from the pawns uh, to the tiles to the bamboo, um, the board itself, right?
Yeah.
We wanted it all to be beautiful, right? But at the end of the day, we wanted you to play the game, right? We just didn't want this to sit on your coffee table, right? And so yeah, Tsuro is one of those games that somebody that is as young as 4 years old can play the game,
Yeah.
understand the game, and they're going to beat you at the game,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to go, what just happened? I got my rear end cleaned by a 4-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And it's that elegance. I wanted to make sure that elegance and simplicity came through in the deluxe version, in this luxury version, but also that it was durable enough to be utilized on a daily basis if you wanted to play it, right? And so the tiles, you can actually drop them on the ground. They're not going to break.
Okay.
They're not going to chip, right? They're very, very durable. Now, if you take a hammer to them and you start beating them, it's going to break, right? But under normal circumstances, they're going to hold up really, really well. So.
The other thing I want to mention, that because I don't want to get missed, is the rule sheet is on a bamboo scroll. Like,
yeah, it's actual real bamboo.
Yeah,
right.
It's crazy.
And it took a long time to get that printing process done. So if you look at a lot of things that are printed on bamboo, what you'll notice is there's a piece of silk that overlays the bamboo, and the printing's on the silk. It's not actually on the bamboo, right? Or it's a single color.
Gotcha.
So getting a 4-color process on the bamboo was a real trick, right? It was not an easy task. And it took us a long time to figure that out.
Especially since the scroll can roll up too, right?
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, this is like, it's like uber premium, right? Like, that's the only way I can describe it. Like, it's just beautiful. I'm gonna do one more shot here for the people that are watching live, so you can actually see everything in the box. It looks gorgeous. Congrats on this.
Well, thank you.
What's next for you guys? You guys obviously have, quite the the lineup of games, and again, as I show the people for watching live, there's a number of games you have in your portfolio. Is the plan to kind of continue along this kind of this premium angle, or is that just because that's kind of the platform, the base of the company? And is there another title coming, or what's kind of next for you guys?
So I can't do another one because it took me 8 years to do this one. Okay, so I can't wait another 8 years to do a premium game.
Sure.
This is a one-off, right? Limited edition, luxury limited edition is exactly that. It's going to be very limited in number.
Yeah.
It's a one-time thing. If you missed the Kickstarter, I'm sorry. There's no late pledges, right? You're in or you're out, right? And I do know that there are going to be retailers who are buying a couple of copies, right? Nobody's buying an exorbitant amount,
sure,
but I do know a couple of retailers that are buying more than one. But you're going to end up paying the markup, the standard retail markup on that, because I'm not discounting it anyway, right? It's the same price whether you buy one or if you buy 10, okay? It's the same $350. So, so this is the best opportunity. If you want the game, this is really the best time to get it, right? So what's next? We're going to go back to our roots, right? And we have a game that I designed many, many years ago. And I've had a lot of my friend designers actually touch this thing and help me with it, right? But it's called Four Corners. And the game board that we use in Tsuro Phoenix Rising was actually designed for Four Corners. Right?
Okay.
And it's one of those things where I've worked on it for so long. And when I first showed it, I actually showed it to Jordan at least 15 years ago. And he said, "Oh, this is a great game. We're never going to publish it, put it on the shelf." So I did, right? And now is the time for it to come back off the shelf.
So cool. Is that this coming year, or is that like a year out, or how?
So we're talking about that now,
Nice.
right? So we don't have any specifics on that yet, right? But I will tell you that it will be the next game that we do, and I'm very excited to have it out. And it'll be a $40 game, so it'll be back at that family price point level again. And the nice thing about Four Corners, it actually plays from 1 to 6 players, right? And so you can play teams, you can play solo, and it's really, really cool game. So
that's awesome.
Looking forward to getting that out. Yeah.
Well, if there's anybody listening or watching that wants to check out this campaign, I encourage you to check it out just to see what these guys have put together. It is crazy. There's 24 hours left, so you got literally one day if you're getting in on it. Simply go in the show notes. I'm going to put a link directly to the Kickstarter page, or if you want to just go on to Kickstarter and search it up, it's Tsuro, but there's a T in front of there, so it's silent, so Tsuro, and you'll find the campaign. Ray, oh man, congrats on this. You guys got to be really, really happy. I want to wish you all the best in this coming year, and I hope to get you back on the podcast for your next game.
James, anytime, buddy.
All right, you take care.
Let us know.
Cheers.
Thank you.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.